This is Adam Gorney with the Respect My Decision podcast. This week's guest used to be Dominic Robinson, but now he's Duce's dad. I mean, everyone knows it. Everyone, your time has come and gone, right? I mean, what's it
That
been
is for
like for
sure.
you, Dominic, just to be in this position and to experience this from the other side?
It's been a lot of fun. It's been very educating. But it's really been great. It's rekindled a lot of former relationships. It's brought me to make a lot of new relationships with some incredible people. So it's really been fun. We've really tried to embrace all of it, the good, the bad, the ugly, the grueling, the tiring. I mean, we took multiple red eyes to go on visits and things like that. And but we've tried to, hey man, like this is we worked to get to this position.
Yeah.
This is what we wanted. You'd rather that than the other side of it, which is wishing you had a decision like this to make. So it's been fun. It's been crazy. It's been pretty chaotic, but it's definitely been something that it's a once in a lifetime thing. So you don't take any of that for granted.
You were heavily recruited too. This seems like a different level of intensity, especially in the world that Duce is kind of growing up in, social media wise and recruiting reporter wise and stuff. What has that been like for you guys and for him to and especially for you to see what you went through and the pitches that you got and now what you're seeing now with everything else?
Um, Enlightening.
Yeah.
It's been incredible because not only did I go through it as a player, but I did coach college for 5-6 years. And so I went through it as a coach. And then I was separated. I actually got out of college coaching so that I could spend more time with Duce and my other boys. And so now it's, figuring out the changes from when I left as a player has been crazy and enlightening, but also
Yeah.
even just from when I finished coaching, which was when Duce was in, I think, sixth grade or fifth grade, was when I left college. And so just experiencing the difference, the way that the rules have changed, obviously the NIL part, has made a huge difference. But really, the schedule, the timing of everything is the part that's so different than both when I played and when I was coaching college. The timing of everything, everybody's mid-year pretty much. Kids are offered way earlier. Kids are committing way sooner. Your visits are sooner because now there's the early sign period. The summer visits didn't exist even when I left because nobody went mid-year. Everyone signed in the February signing period when I left college football. Nobody signs in the first signing period now. So all of those things changing have been very interesting and enlightening. And again, it's been a ride.
Everybody thinks their kid is the most special in the world. I'm like
Yeah.
5'9", 5'10" on a good day. My son has no prayer of playing Division I football. When did you kind
Right.
of get the inkling? When did you and your wife and the family get an inkling that Duce is not only going to be really good at football and baseball, but like maybe, professional level good?
I'll be honest with you. At football, we never had any clue. We didn't know because he didn't play. And I know as a coach and being around the game for as long as I'd been around plenty guys who were incredibly talented in shorts and t-shirts. And then the second they put a helmet and shoulder pads on, it became pretty average and some less than average. So we never really we assumed or we expected him to be as good as he is, but we had no real ground to stand on with that other than he was a freak athlete. But in terms of what that meant in terms of being a football player, those are two completely separate things. There's plenty freak athletes that cannot hack it on the football field.
Yeah.
So we never knew what the football side would bring. That part has been very, very, very surprising, to be honest with you. We expected him to be good. I can still, we talk about it all the time. Freshman year, I had no expectation for him to be on varsity. He ended up being an All-American. That was not my expectation. I knew he would be a huge matchup problem for a freshman or a JV defensive back because of his athleticism. I didn't think he would be ready because he literally was learning how to put on helmets and shoulder pads. His first game, I'm sure he had to ask somebody, "Hey man, what do we do with this?
Right.
How do I snap this shoulder pad?" So that was not an expectation. On the baseball side, we always knew he was special, man. When he was very young, he was doing stuff that kids his age just didn't do. And it really, I mean, I can remember, we were just talking about it 2 days ago, when his T-ball coach came up to me and said, "Hey, this kid should be playing kid pitch because every time he's hitting the ball over everyone's head, and it looks like it's not fun for him anymore." Yeah, put him in kid pitch. He goes to kid pitch. He makes all-stars. He's like 5 and he's playing with 7-year-olds. We moved to Iowa. He's 9. He's playing with 12-year-olds. I wanted him to be in the middle. He ended up being the best player on the 12U team, and he's 9. So he always sort of overachieved on the baseball side. So that part we knew he'd been doing it for so long. But, a kid being good at flag football does not necessarily indicate he's going to be good in the real game. And he did have some success at flag football. They flew him to the all-pro game or the Pro Bowl game. His 7th grade team, I think, went to the Pro Bowl, because they won, nationals or whatever. And so he was, and he was a good player on that team. So he was definitely showing signs of it, but to be, expect it would be, a reach because again, he had never played until that first game when he lined up against Perry High School, which is actually where the Purdue boys, both Chubba, he played against Chubba, and where Brock went. And that was his first game was against Perry. And we were nervous as heck because I didn't think he was ready. I hadn't seen him. I tried to stay separate. I wasn't coaching at the time. I was just trying to be a dad. And we again, I thought he was a JV player. And on that game, I think he had 5 catches, had a huge 3rd down catch, almost caught a touchdown. And it was like, ew, this kid might be able to make it. Yeah, he might be okay.
The question I get all the time with baseball, and I hope you can lay it out, and I don't even know if it's completely clear yet, is if he's drafted, can he play college football? If he is drafted, will he play? If he's not drafted, what does he do? What does that situation look like for you? And lay out like the specifics just so people don't keep asking me.
If he's drafted, can play. He would then be considered a preferred walk-on because he can't be on scholarship because he's no longer an amateur. If he is drafted incredibly high, he could not play college football, obviously, and he could go, report straight to the team. That is not something that he would likely do because he wants to play football. Football is everything to him. It means everything to him, as does baseball. Both of those sports are incredibly important to him, and so he wants to play them until the game tells him he can't play. So that's pretty much it. If he doesn't get drafted and there is no interest from the teams, then he'll play college baseball and he'll be a dang good college baseball player. So and so we'll see what that ends up turning out.
What's it like seeing your son not try out, but have a workout with the Dodgers before going?
I'll tell you, being in Dodger Stadium, that was insane. I have to. I don't get I don't know. I don't get butterflies or starstruck because I've been around this my whole life,
Yeah.
But that's one place, one of the few places. I'm sure there's a couple more, a handful more. There aren't many, but I'm a kid from Los Angeles. My de facto dad, not my real dad, but a guy, my little league coach had his company had season tickets to the Dodgers. And so I've been down to Chavez Ravine on a random Tuesday school night, to watch the Dodgers play, the Astros and, and things like that. I watched a no hitter in that stadium. All types of things. One of my very early sports memories was the back-to-back World Series in 87, 88. All things like that. So when you're pulling up to that stadium and then you watch your own kid stand in that same batter's box, the same batter's box that Mookie Betts stands in, and Jason Hayward, who was actually there that day. It was special for me. I had to be honest. There's a whole lot of other things that he's done that have been pretty cool to a lot of other people that have been sort of old hat to us, but that was one that I have to be honest and candid with that one. That was a dang cool moment to see him, out there in that stadium, that historic place that I grew up in. It's a little bit different if it's something that you just watched on TV. If it was like Yankee Stadium, even Yankee Stadium would be cool, but that's not my place.
Right.
I didn't grow up as a kid, going to Yankee Stadium or, or Red Sox, or the Green Monster. Yeah, it would be cool, but not on the level of Dodger Stadium. That was awesome.
Walk me through what an in-home visit looks like. Is it pretty much the same? Is it pretty much the same pitch? Or does each coach, just like their own personality, do they kind of bring it a little differently?
Yeah, I think everybody has their own different personalities that they try to bring. But it's really funny because in the end, it's all the same. It's the same home visit that I had in year 2000. So 22 years later, the home visit is the home visit. Like it hasn't changed. Everyone brings their own little spice to it in terms of their personality, whether that's storytelling, whether that's really kicking back and like just relaxing and kind of even putting feet up, whether that's buttoned up and sitting at the table and, strategically, everyone sort of brings their own spice, but in the end, it all kind of comes down to what do we as a program think of you and how can you make us better and how can we make you better? And that's the same home visit that existed probably long before me. It existed when I was coming out, and it's the same thing that Duce is now going through.
What would be your recommendation for future parents on official visits? Is it let your son hang out with the team, let him go out at night, let him experience it? Do you want to be with him the whole time? I mean, he's got to live this life when you're not there. So kind of what would you say about an official visit?
So I would say if you can, give them as much. And when I say if you can, like if you can stomach letting them go and have their own visit, their own trip, if you can send them on their own, I would highly recommend that. We went on all of them, but not because we were attempting to be with or around Duce. We went because we're huge college football fans. And so we wanted to go to games. We just wanted to watch games. So that's the reason why we went. But when we did get there, he stayed in a separate room on a separate floor. We pretty much stayed detached from him, as much as possible, because there's information that he needs to find out that he'll only get the true, real, or at least closest to it if he's exploring that on his own. And if he can't get that information, then he's probably not ready to go. And if he doesn't feel comfortable gathering that information, then it's probably not a good place for him, because he's going to have to live there. He's going to have to ask hard questions as a student, as an athlete, as a friend. He's going to have to hold people accountable and things like that as a leader. So if you don't feel comfortable on that campus, and in that program, doing those things on your own, on your visit, then it's not going to necessarily get better, or you can't assume it's going to get better when you're not visiting. So that's my best thing is like, give this process to your player, to your athlete, to your son. Give it to them. Let them take it. Help guide them, but do not hover over them. Let them make their own decisions. Let them ask their own questions. Then, and sometimes they're going to fumble it. They're going to mess up. And then just have a conversation. Hey, when coach said this, you look down the whole time. Maybe next time make some eye contact with them, and ask, and then respond with your own question. One of the things that we've done for sure, and a lot of this has happened through our baseball process that's poured over to football, is they're always going to ask you, do you have any questions? That is a very common. There has been no baseball organization that we've talked to that hasn't asked if we have questions. So have questions, hopefully you have questions because you're interested, and they're naturally, they come up naturally because you're interested in the information that you're being given. But even come into it with certain things, because there's times that you think about questions when you're not with that person or with that program. So we put them in our phones. We have notes in our phones, and we put those questions. We make sure we have them. And, and I constantly remind Duce to, hey man, like, hey, we're meeting with this person, with this program, with this organization. Remember, you asked me about, how their development is on this. Make sure you do that.
Yeah. Last thing here, and I think this has been incredibly helpful. Is what is it like for you, for him? Is it at home? Is it all consuming? Everyone's waiting for an answer. Does he kind of grasp he has to make the decision for himself, but he's got to say no to a lot of people too. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
Is it something that you would have preferred to get done sooner, or are you happy that you've kind of taken your time and waited until he was absolutely certain on what's going on here?
I would say for Duce, in his situation, this is absolutely the timetable that he had to take.
Yeah.
There's no way he could have been ready or prepared based on the information that he had, even on the first signing day. So for him specifically, I think, and honestly, I would say that probably exists for maybe half the kids. I think a good amount of kids are committing and signing a little bit too early. I think that number is shifting, in that the way the landscape of college football is shifting. I think more people should be taking more time, because changes are happening later. I thought last year was a big moment for us when Lincoln Riley left and Brian Kelly left, because that is something that did not exist when I was playing. A coach of that stature would never, like Brian Kelly, for instance, never would leave Notre Dame in January or December. It might have been December. It was December. Yeah. In December, to go to an LSU, which is a comparable, prestigious program. It wasn't a huge jump up. There really is no level above Notre Dame. Yeah. So so for him to make that move on a team that was 12-1 or 11-1 at the time, to me, that really shook up that, hey, you have to take as much time and as much information as they give you. His is even more complicated because there's the baseball side of it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
do I wish we could have made the situation or the decision earlier? Yes, only because the gravity of it is something that you carry every day, or he carries every day.
Yeah.
And you would love to see your child not have to carry that, because he has so many other responsibilities, and he's so much more than just a football player or a baseball player or even a basketball player, which is what he's doing now. So you wish he wouldn't have, but I love the fact that it is such a difficult decision, because that means it means something to him. And this decision, to me, it's life-changing. You know, who your friends are, who you end up marrying, the type of crowds you run with, the job that you have, all of this will be dictated and largely influenced by the college that you select. So you should take that responsibility at that level. And so he's clearly done that. And I think this decision is the first decision for young adults that they will draw on for the rest of their life.
Yeah.
This is you will draw on your experiences with this decision for every decision that you make going forward. So the more gravity that you give it, the more likely you are to draw on these things in a positive manner later. If you just make a rash, emotional decision without taking the time and the energy and the effort to gather the proper information, then later on, when you have another big decision, you're likely to make the same mistake. And now you're going to go, oh man, I married this girl and that's not the right person for me. You know, I decided to do this. I decided to move to this side of the country when really I should have been on this side of the country, or whatever it is. So we wish, it would have been nice to have known sooner, but if you don't know, then you need to continue to gather the information and allow the process to play itself out as long as you possibly can.
You mean when you were going through this, you didn't believe the rumors about Bobby Bowden going to A&M and Paterno taking the Missouri job? It's a different world, huh?
Yeah, definitely different world. That was not something that that bothered me one bit.
Yeah. Awesome. Again, that is Duce Robinson's dad, Dominic Robinson. This is Adam Gorney with the Respect My Decision podcast.